Hey folks, heads up that this episode includes some adult language.
Hi, I'm Sarah Beth Goer.
And I'm Jennifer Jill Araya.
Welcome to the Crafting Audiobooks podcast, where we discuss the art and craft of audiobooks, and we aim to go deep quick.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Crafting Audiobooks podcast. Sarah and I are thrilled to have our special guest with us today, who is an audiobook producer for Hachette Book Group. Jen Patten-Sanchez, welcome to Crafting Audiobooks.
Hey, thanks for having me on board.
We are very much looking forward to today's discussion, which might be a little bit different than some of our normal fare here at Crafting Audiobooks. We usually dive right into the craft, but I know that Jen has some insights on the business side of audiobooks that we're going to be discussing in a bit. But before we get there, Jen, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about style changes that you've noticed in audiobooks over your years working in this industry. We were talking about that a bit in the pre-show, and yeah, tell us what you've seen.
Yeah, so I have been in audiobooks, oh good Lord, since 2018. I can't do the math. Like I started as an engineer going on up, so I've been like in the trenches. Oh my God, I was stuck in erotica for such a long time. Never again. Although I appreciate Amish romance, 10 out of 10.
Everybody has their own fave subgenres.
Oh yeah.
Man, just like, oh my God, her ankle's out. Anyway, and so there's often like kind of traditional, like in a world, like very serious, like I am a narrator, like very professional. And then nowadays it's definitely leaning towards the more in the spirit of podcast space, because that has just exploded, that industry. Like people who are listening to audiobooks are probably listening to podcasts. And so there is more of that informal vibe to it, which I understand it's a little harder to do when you're a narrator and you have to stick like word perfect to a script. But I am noticing a nice little shift. And just as someone who's been stuck in the booth for that long and stuck in the editing suite for that long, it is like a nice little change for me, at least. And I personally, so I've been mainly directing authors lately. And I recently worked with an author that did fiction, which is very surprising, but she blew it out of the water. And I'm like, please narrate professionally. Like, you're so good. And she had the brilliant idea, like her instinct was for her in the inner thoughts, instead of slowing down, it's like speeding up. So instead of like, oh my God, I'm fucking up, like it's like, oh my God, I'm fucking up. It's like how traditionally people do it, but she did, oh my God, I'm fucking up so much. And it's like, oh my God, yes, that's how people think. And to me, it's steps away from the more traditional, like tiny little steps away from more traditional narration. And personally, I've like one thing that I really like is when people are mindful of pacing like that again. But like, so the inner thoughts, but also like just an appreciation of like when a scene like speeds up versus slows down. Especially when it comes to like a mood shift or an action shift, because it really is easy to kind of get stuck in the same tone, because this craft is a marathon, not a sprint. Like, yeah. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say a theme I'm hearing in everything you're saying is discovery, not being stuck in, well, this is the way it's done, but like what is actually happening right now, and discovering like, hey, actually like this resonates or connects in this way, as opposed to like, well, this is the convention, we should just follow convention.
Yeah. And I love creating, like allowing that space for creativity. And I think a lot of it comes down to like stepping away from the norm, as you said, and letting your like base instinct as a human being come in.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's honestly, the next step for the craft. If you're going to lead towards more of this realism, I guess, is the like main term. I don't know. I always compare things to like art movements or whatever, because I studied film theory. I have an entire thing of just film theory over there. My podcast is film theory. Like I get it.
Yeah, this is great. It's informing your work in audiobook as well, I'm sure.
Yeah. And there's just like so much that you can convey without saying anything in your performance rather than like just reading a book.
Isn't that so amazing that you can do that in audio?
Yeah.
Like you can convey so much without saying anything in audio. We can't even see the visual. Tell us more though. Tell us more.
Oh, it's honestly, it's a lot of inflection. I mean, but also it's like being mindful of like how much pacing, inflection, tone really, like, you can read the same thing over and over and over again. And you're like, okay, this is a little more introspective. Oh no, you're grinding your teeth a little bit. Like a lot of times when because also I'm directing a lot of non-professionals. So they're coming in with like their idea of what an audiobook sounds like. And usually they apply what they're seeing in Hollywood. And like what their experiences. So a lot of times, like, I'll be like, hey, are you actually like tense in this moment? Or like, I have to ask them like, okay, I don't want to, I hate being that person. Like, what is your motivation here?
The actor's question.
Yeah. And so a lot of it, like, I make them do a lot of physical movements in the booth, given they're not wearing a starchy shirt, of course. And there's room in the booth, but I'll be like, okay, like pretend you're like, because often when I direct, I kind of like, I will do like kind of conductor, like I don't have my camera on. It's distracting, but I kind of like, it's all about the like rhythm of, you can't see, people can't, it's a podcast, so you can't see me moving my hands.
Jen is like gesturing like sort of conductor style.
It's kind of conductor-ish. Like that's how I make a lot of people do that. And then also I always do a lot of like physicality of like, okay, like I need you to like clench your mouth when you like clench your jaw when you're saying this, or like end with a smile. I do a lot of like physicality of like sometimes if I hear that they're getting tired, it's like, it's not just a water break. They need to do some neck stretches and like just break. Sometimes it's even just breaking the rhythm. Like you get stuck in your brain on a paragraph and you just can't redo it. And I'm like, okay, 2-minute break. We're going to start from the top of the page just so your brain stops getting stuck in the same rhythm over and over and over again.
Yeah, so you can come in fresh with a connection instead of a like sort of
exactly pattern. Yeah. And you get stuck kind of like in that pattern and you're looking more at the like how to pronounce something rather than the like feelings, the context behind it.
Question. This fiction author who read their books so well, and that made you think, oh, you got to be a professional. Like, what was so good about what they were doing?
So Jackie Waters for the book Dearest. It's a body horror, feminist icon, like kind of story where it's this woman is postpartum.
Big difference.
Those are two very different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's postpartum, and you kind of get like a question of what's real and what's not, because that's like the main question, but also like her body is failing her as like what the expectations of a mother is. Like the first chapter, it starts with like my nipples were infected. And so a lot of it was, she's also been a mother, but also she's a screenwriter. sorry, the author is a mother and a screenwriter.
Gotcha. Following. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So she has a Hollywood background, and so so she was very in touch with the motivation and the character itself. Like, I think that's something that was really important, was like she knew exactly where the mindset of the narrator was. Does that make sense? The main character.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's like that really has to do, like, if I was hiring a professional, I think the way you could do to replicate that, I mean, honestly, it really is doing the prep. And like, honestly, it's like, if you have any questions about like, hey, does this character like have this issue and I can't tell, it's like, just reach out to me, because authors love that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I can like I know Hachette does this. I don't know about other companies, but often we'll get, especially for fiction, we'll get an audio brief where they go through each character, how their names. I always like to do like, what's your Hollywood casting for your film adaptation? And like what their motivations are, you know, if there's another book, you know, if there's any reveals. Oh, turns out he had a Texan accent all along. Hate that.
I had a series once where in book 7, one of the characters.
Oh, that's so rough. You're like, I've been voicing this character for 6 books. What do you want me to do now?
Yep. Yeah, you need to know that.
Yeah. And so always just feel free to ask. Like, truly, like, it's easy enough for me to relay a question to the book team.
Yes.
It's just an email away.
Yes, ask the questions you need in order to connect to the character more deeply, which it sounds like is part of what made this author so awesome at reading her own book, is she was so connected to the specifics that it was coming, that the character was coming alive in this incredibly, like, this idiosyncratic and believable way.
Yeah. And like the book itself was so complex because of the question of what is reality and what is she experiencing. So it's like you have to have the understanding of context of like where this person is in reality and where are they in their own headspace. It's very like it gets more complicated when you get projects like that.
Sure. Anytime there's an unreliable narrator, not narrator speaker, but narrator in the book, anytime there's that unreliable narrator, it takes that prep to a whole new level and a whole new importance.
Just like, I love it. Delicious. I love me an unreliable narrator. Like, we were joking that book is somewhere between an Ari Aster movie, like Hereditary, and do you guys ever watch like The Haunting of Hill House with Mike Flanagan did the directing?
I haven't. I have
not.
I've heard.
It's so good. It's so good. It's like an amazing horror family drama. Approach it as a family drama that happens to be a horror film. And same with Hereditary. So it's got the heart of Mike Flanagan and the aesthetics of an Ari Aster's Hereditary. And
yeah. I love watching your eyes light up with passion. Like, this is part of what's so awesome about the industry, is getting to work on those books that you're like, this book is so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's like once in a, like, honestly, I only pick maybe 6 books a year that I actually not to like, just to get like more hands-on with.
Where you're really like reading the manuscript or doing the direction yourself, or et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I just came off of one that I feel bad. I had a director shadow me. It's like her first audiobook, and I had to like set her aside and be like, this isn't normal. What we're doing is incredibly not normal, because we also recorded me, because we used my talkback as a device to breaking the fourth wall that he does a lot.
Oh my gosh, talk about discovery and exploration.
Please tell us, how did you decide that you were going to use your own audio there?
The first book we decided to do that. This is I Take My Coffee Black by Tyler Merritt, who honestly, I'm shook that I didn't get an Audie the first time around. His picture book that I also edited, directed, everything won an Audie, but this next one better win a friggin' Audie because we are putting our full, I don't want to say balls to the walls, but that, yeah. The first time honestly, he and I, like, sometimes an author will be like, I just need to get to know you as a human being and make sure that we vibe. And he was the first author who did that to me. And he's like, hey, I just need to make sure we're going to work well together. And I'm like, you're stuck with me no matter what, but sure.
You're like, the company decided, but let's do this.
Yeah, let's. And it turns out he's like a fabulous human being. And the way that he writes, he does a lot of parentheticals. And so sometimes he'll be like, it's like, wait, Jen, wait, hold on. You're a white person. Can you explain this to me? Or like, for example, we had his co-writer pop on. Like we do a lot of like putting people on speakerphone in the booth. It's so silly and I love it.
That's exciting. That's an exciting prediction.
We do that shtick a lot. Like to the point where he quotes his last audiobook, and what he does is like, hey, I have an account. Wait, one second. He you hear him like going through his phone and then plays the audiobook, the last audiobook into the mic in the studio.
It sounds like the creative decision happened very organically.
Yeah, we do a lot on the fly.
And it also sounds kind of like what you said at the beginning, that you're really going for a style that is that approachable, relatable podcast style. I mean, sort of like the conversation that we're having here. We're making mistakes and we're laughing and there are pauses and we're saying which you don't get in an audiobook normally, but you are allowing those things to happen organically so that the audiobook feels like you're just listening into a conversation almost.
Exactly. And I think my publisher would say I'm a bad producer in this way, but when I see a QC sheet, that a lot of it is like, okay, this is a contraction. There's, an or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, just okay as this. Like, I don't like.
I mean, that's a subjective choice for sure.
Yeah. So,
and like you're saying, the style is heading in this more casual way, and so that the subjective choice may serve where the art is going.
Yeah. And the last book that we did that, where we made a lot of creative decisions on the fly, like having me on board, it was recognized, like it was a sleeper hit because a lot of people liked it, that we broke the fourth wall. We did a lot of like really random sound effects. Like we have me playing the recorder doing the Jurassic Park theme very poorly. Like the legal team was like, it has to be slightly recognizable, but it has to be done extremely poorly. So I like went into a booth and like, I have never played a recorder in my life, but here I am.
But you made it happen.
I made it happen.
Yeah, the extremely poorly part, it's like, check, can make this work.
I can do this. Exactly. So I find that stuff incredibly exciting. And of course, like something like that, you can only really do with an author read. But I had another interesting, technically it was an author read, but we had their partner on it as well as Mark Viator to do all the weird stuff. Because it was very much like a Terry Pratchett-esque, very absurdist, surrealist book. Like the first chapter is about juggalos. Like it's fantastic. It's about like, it's called Please Miss, like a something story about staggering penis. Like it's about being a trans woman and deciding to like, what is it like? Not quite body horror, but like it is body exploration and leaning into the absurdity of like, okay, I am a person who's in a body that doesn't fit me. And it's like, okay, and like her personality is just to like run with that. And so there was a lot of skits with like a random one that was like a film noir. There was like a porno shoot or whatever. And we had just like Mark Theater is my go-to weird guy. Like, I don't know if you've ever worked with him, but whenever he can just lean into weird so well. Like, I'll give him like a little, like, okay, can you do this as a dateline? Or, just random stuff like that. He's great. Sorry, I'm like way off kilter.
No, we're the conversation is unfolding in an explorative way. And you know what strikes me about you having, they're like, hey, Mark's my go-to as like weird guy, is how powerful it can be as an artist to lean into your own idiosyncrasy. Because, you know, I don't know his work, but from what you're sharing, I'm imagining that he just trusts himself and has this essence. And now you're like, oh, he's my go-to guy. And it's just a good reminder to trust.
Like he's one of those guys who definitely leans in on his instincts. Like, cause I met him because during the pandemic, I was still doing remote engineering and it was an Audible title. I think it was called like The Swarm or something like that. And I hope you don't mind. I'm like name dropping all these books.
No, feel free.
I'm only putting in
make a listener list.
Exactly. I'm only putting in the ones that I love. And this is another, I like horror, guys. I'm sorry. It's another horror. And it was, again, unreliable narrator, body horror, but like he had such good instincts with like what is their state of mind, the pacing. He can make a see and saw. Like, have you ever played that? Like the children's, it's like the kind of like a roulette board, but you pull the string and then it goes like, and it's like it's kind of like a clock where the arrow goes around, lands on an animal.
I totally had one of those. Yes.
Also, what's funny is this happened on Dearest as well. Haunted children's toys. Amazing. I love that trope. But he did so good with that. Like, the horse says.
Making those
That's impressive.
Wow. And I love that you just demoed it for us.
I know, that was pretty good.
There's no other way. There's no other way. And then what's hilarious is like hers was a see and say too. I think collectively everyone is terrified of like children's toys going awry.
Yeah, there is something very like sort of shaking the like foundational security, like something that seems like safe and playful and like messing with that. Okay. Yeah. So before we move on to like the business insight portion, I have one comment and one question.
Yes.
So the comment is that I wanted to sort of honor that, you know, today we're talking about how the style has been evolving to an even more like sort of casual and connected read or you know, performance, and that we're always in the exploration. I wanted to honor that like narrators 20 years ago were also saying, wait, why are we doing it this conventional way?
Yeah.
Specifically, Dion Graham and Barbara Rosenblatt come to mind. They are both, you know, very great narrators who have mentioned that early on in their careers, they were like connecting and bringing it to life. And at the time, it was a much more like the style was a much more neutral read. And they would be told sometimes by, you know, the people they were working with, like, no, you got to read it more neutral. And they'd just be like, no, that doesn't, why? This is my instinct. Why? Like, I'm going to keep asking why. And so I just sort of wanted to, go ahead, Jennifer.
I was just going to say, I think that's why Dion Graham and Barbara Rosenblatt are still working as the style is changing. I mean, a lot of the because I grew up listening to audiobooks as a kid, tons of them. And a lot of those narrators are not still super active in the industry. Now, a lot of them have retired. I mean, you know, like years ago is a long time to still be working in the same industry. But I do think that insistence that we need to connect to the text, even if it is a flatter style, that connection still needs to be there, is why Dion Graham and Barbara Rosenblatt are still working and are still known as the industry icons that they are.
That's so insightful and makes so much sense. And yeah, I wanted to honor that we're standing on their shoulders, you know, that it's all a continual process of what continues to unfold as we trust our instincts, as we explore how it builds over time, and like how is it going to be 10 years from now, you know?
I know, right? Let's share. Oh, actually, I had something in mind that I didn't bring up earlier. I can go
bring it
after
up.
this.
Yeah, and then we'll jump back.
So also, like, I think what I noticed was that in my time engineering, that there were a lot of nonfictions out where it was like a how-to book, self-help books. And it really is easy to like, okay, this is just another title that I have to clock out, chug through, putting in my 6 hours a day. It's really easy to get in that mindset. And I know it's hard. I know it's really hard. But I think, I mean, if I were to put in any like little bit of advice to just like, because you can't really breathe in art into like a how-to book about like medication of cancer treatment or something like that. It's like, come in with the empathy and understanding the root of the problem that's being discussed. Like, there's this book that I did with Brittany Presley, like way back in the day, and it's still like in the top 50 in Audible for like, I know it's definitely in the top 15 for self-help. Oh, good Lord, what's it called? I think it's called I think you need to talk to someone, or something like that's like about therapy. And she did bring in this, like, the crux of the problem is we're human and you need to talk to someone. Like, that's, and so just having that in mind of like, okay, what's the main, like, it's not just the issue that's being discussed. It's how does this affect us as human beings and as a listener? And maybe it doesn't directly affect the listener per se, but like, okay, what am I going to take away from this? What do I want you to take away from this? And
it's always a good place to start.
Yeah, that's really an insightful way to remind ourselves about that connection, and that even some books that seem, you're like, oh, well, this is just surface level, this is a how-to, there is no there's always a connection, or a human wouldn't have written the book for other humans.
Exactly that.
Well, Sarah, what was your question?
I would like to chat with you both about pacing for a moment here.
Yeah.
Right? Because we were talking about like, connecting so deeply that the pacing is casual and organic, and different books require different pacing in different moments. And I personally find myself thinking that audiobooks are unique in their requirement for that change up and that connection and organicness, but also somehow there does need to be some kind of consistency to the pacing. Like with the sort of marathon format, if I recorded an entire audiobook talking to the two of you how I'm talking now, I feel like it would like sort of wear on or exhaust the listener in some way, that there's some sort of like world that gets created by some kind of consistency of pacing, even with the change ups. And I found myself pondering that and really wanting to hear your perspectives on it, particularly yours, Jen.
Well, I'm curious what Jennifer has in mind.
Sure. Well, I would say that the pacing can vary from scene to scene and follow the action. And also, I'm trying to put this into words. When I'm thinking about audiobooks, I actually think from a filmmaker's perspective a lot. So, Jen, maybe you can speak to this better. But just how at the fight scene of an action movie, that's when the filmmaker is going to use slow-mo. They're not going to speed up or, have the camera necessarily going all over the place. That's where, like, you see the car slowly skidding out and you're like, no, don't go over the hill or whatever. And so that slow motion stretches out the tension and the action and really helps listeners understand what exactly is happening. So I think from an audiobook narrator's perspective, we need to almost have a film view of pacing, that there is going to be some consistency in the stylistic choices you're making over the audiobook as a whole. And it is going to change from scene to scene, but it also sometimes might be the opposite of the automatic choice. You won't at every action scene speed up. Some of them will slow down because they need that little bit of pace to help the listener understand and really feel the tension. So I don't know if that fully answers or addresses Sarah's question, but that is the direction that I approach it from, is thinking of a filmmaker's idea. Jen, what do you think?
It definitely is scene to scene. Like I brought up earlier, it's like, okay, are they inside their head right now versus is this expository like information? I will argue against you there. I think you should go faster in fight scenes. But there is definitely space for slowing down in fight scenes. I think it's like the crucial moment is when you need to slow down.
Well, and again, if you think of the filmmaker's idea, it is that crucial moment, like the car is about to go over the hillside or the guy's about to get punched in the face. Like that, it's not slow motion over the whole scene, because that would be wearing and grating. It's slow motion at that moment of
peril,
tension.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's definitely scene by scene, and like, where is the mental state? Is the narrator unrelated? Like, unreliable. But also, I would say even with nonfiction. And nonfiction also, there's when you have a sidebar, or like you're not referring to, like, if there's let's just say, there's a graph and they're like, hey, this concept is, found on the, like, it's there's a illustration on it on the bonus PDF. Like, even just that break of like, oh, I'm a human being for a second, versus the narration. Because yes, it's like, when it is a nonfiction about like self-help, like, yes, you need to be word perfect. You're probably gonna be the same tone most of the time. But if you have that, or let's just say like, oh, but you have to break for a meditation. Like, that happens a lot, where you're like, okay, breathe in, breathe out, box breath, take a joint, like drag on the joint. And then you breathe out.
As one does in all meditations, sure.
Actually, I did one that was like the Weed Witch. And that was so much fun. I had the author do the credits. She didn't even read the whole book. She just did the credits, and I did it like, I made her do like a box breath meditation, but pretend that she had a joint. And I made it sound like all groovy. Anyway, so if you go to a meditation or a sidebar or something, that's an opportunity to shift the tone and the speed. Like, I always find kind of that sidebar, like, like Bill Nye the Science Guy, where he's just going through an expository situation, and it's like, oh, wait, let's demonstrate this. Like, and there is a shift to like keep the ears perked up and like awake, because I use audiobooks and audio stuff to sleep like all the time. There is a timer.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yes, there's tonal and stuff, but like, if I like to keep people like who are interested in actually listening to, like, they're in the car, like, just a little perk of the ears, keeping them awake. So I think the tonal shift is important for that, the engagement.
Yeah. And also, like, hearing the two of you reflect on pacing and how it's scene by scene, and how it's sort of having the movie lens. I completely agree with everything you're saying. And I realized, like, as you were talking, what I was sort of trying to point to that is unique about audiobooks is that there aren't other mediums where we like describe the scene that's happening. Like that's not entirely true in that, like, a fiction podcast, there might be a brief description, but not at length the way that we do in audiobooks, that we describe the action that's happening. And so I think it's unique to our medium, but I think that the sort of filmic approach, and that it is scene by scene, and that it's that directorial vision where I would say there isn't a right answer. Like, I don't think you slow down in action or you speed up in action. I think it's like, what do you do in this scene? Because you're the director for this book and this scene and this moment. And it might be like, well, most often you slow down or most often you speed up, but like, what's happening now? Like, it occurred to me, like, well, you wouldn't do a scene where you slow down and speed up, like every 5 seconds back and forth. And I was like, or maybe you do, because what's this book? I don't know.
Player 2 has entered the chat.
Woo, okay.
Yeah. So, Jen, I want to shift the focus of our discussion a little bit to that business conversation that I mentioned at the top. I would love to sort of open it up and have you tell us where you see the audiobook industry heading.
Yeah. So there's definitely, because the audiobook industry is booming. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's booming and it's extremely profitable. So I see a lot of backlist titles coming in. So stuff that was published like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, probably a lot of nonfiction. So yay, narrators gonna get work. Very exciting. And also, there is definitely a rise of like very slow. I am not promising anything. Very slow, frustratingly so, like audio original content. And yeah, there is like an encouragement of veering off of the original work. Like, okay, this is its own thing. It's a separate experience from the book. Because there's always been like like book versus audiobook debate. And it's like, why not it be a separate experience? Like, it's its own thing. And I think we're leaning in towards that. This is my hot take. Also, I can't like reveal like secret, but this is like, okay, we're leaning toward, like, I think it's going to look good. The 8 Ball says that all signs point to yes.
I like that. So the day that we are recording this interview, one of the audio originals that I was part of is releasing. And part of the reason I did the narration part of the book. So I wasn't any of the dialogue. I just did the narrative sections. And part of the reason that I was chosen is because the casting director knew that I had several podcasts that I did, and they wanted a super casual podcast style for the narrative, which I think just goes right along with everything that you just have been saying, Jen, that the style is shifting towards something more casual, and also that audio originals that don't have a print or an ebook version, they just exist in audio, are going to become a thing.
Yeah. And I'm pushing for more picture books. Like, I'm doing, just because I have a good rep, like I have good backgrounds with picture books, because I do a lot of my own sound effects and directing. I do pretty much soup to nuts is me. I'm doing 2 right now. I hate myself.
Too much work.
They're beautiful. They're beautiful picture books. Don't get me wrong. It's just like the actual editing has become like, I almost like yelled yesterday because Pro Tools crashed 3 times in a row for me. And I'm like, I gotta stop. But beautiful work. I only get I'm really lucky in my assignments, knock on wood. I get beautiful picture books. Like, one coming up that I'm really excited for is the ABCs of Women's History. And I'm gonna have kids read it, and it's gonna come off like a recital.
That sounds so fun.
So I have various ages. So I have like, I think for some reason I'm thinking she's 11 or 14. That is a huge difference.
Yes.
I think she's 11.
I feel like you don't have your own children if you're not sure the difference between 11 and 14, but I'm with you. Continue the story.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a girl who can read. And then I have another girl who can read, but not smoothly. And then I have a child who can't read. And we're going to have his parent like help him read in the booth. It's going to be so fun.
This sounds great.
Like, I'm really excited for that. There's this, I have, it's backlisted. It's probably never going to happen, but I have this dream. I have a dream. There's this book. It's a graphic novel called, 100 Nights of Hero. Imagine lesbian Scheherazade, but Puritan times. And it's great. And it's like such an intense style that's very bleak that I think it could translate to audio really interestingly. Like when I just like occasionally I'll come across a graphic novel that's like a backlist that we own, and like I'll be like, hey, knock, knock, knock. Hey boss, can I do this? Like eventually like, no. But then I'll come back like 6 months later, knock, knock, knock. Hey boss, can I do this? Love you, Jen. No.
Eventually you'll get a yes, right?
Yeah, eventually.
Your boss is making decisions based on financial wisdom, I am sure.
Yes, and I know, but like, there's another one that I pitched that was like, but wouldn't you love a manga-based title that is based on goldfish becoming these huge monsters that eat people? Like, come on, right?
You got to pitch them right.
I love camp, and I know my taste is a hard sell. But it could be cool.
Love it.
All right. So we could probably talk for days. I'm going to move us on to the very last question. And this is a question that we all answer. And the question is, what is exciting you about the craft right now, today? And I will ask Jennifer first. What is exciting you?
So later this week, I'm going to be recording a book by an author that I've already worked with before, Ria Fry. And at this moment, I'm also prepping a book that I'm going to record in about 3 weeks by another author that I've worked with before, Bridget E. Baker. And that book is actually number 41 that she and I will have worked on together. And
41?
Yeah, with the same author. But just in both cases, so the book that I'm starting just at the end of this week, and then also the book that's number 41 with that author, because I've lived in the author's worlds before, and I've worked with the author's style and felt how their words feel in my mouth, working on both of these projects just feels like slipping on a really comfortable pair of shoes. You know, like
nice.
I've already understood the author's phrasing tendencies and style and sentence length, which matters for breathing, and the way that they handle dialogue and character development. And so we've talked a lot here on the podcast in various episodes about the importance as a narrator of understanding and connecting to the author's intent. And, you know, even today we talked some about just the importance of connecting to the text in general. And I am just loving that when I'm getting to work with authors on the second book or the 41st book, that process feels much more natural. It's like returning to a creative collaborator that I already know how they're going to be approaching that project. And it's, you know, that really good fit. So I guess what's exciting me right now is just the joy of working with an author whose work I know intimately and reveling in how delightful it is to put on those comfy shoes.
It makes me think about getting to know people over time, like as we deepen friendships, for example, and we just know the person better, and it's
absolutely
sort of even more comfortable and deep connection.
Yeah. Honestly, that's what makes me happy. Like I am somehow an introverted people person. I don't know how that ended up, but honestly, the main I left the film industry because I couldn't handle the hours and the culture. But I stayed in audiobooks specifically because I became friends. I have a lot of friends in the industry. Like I would say, like I followed my friends to Hachette. So I love being able to build teams on the back end, so like the post-production stuff, and also like, hey, I know this person would be amazing in this role. Or like, oh yeah, so and so, like they can reach out and be like, I need work. this time. And I'm like, hey, I actually have something. Or like I can pitch them to other people. But what was fun recently, and I need to give her more work, but I've been poaching people off of TikTok. It's been really fun.
Wait,
Just
people
like,
in which capacity?
like I found this person, Charlotte Moore Lambert on TikTok, and she does a lot of like sciencey stuff. What was like she had a series for a really long time of like re- replying to comments that was like adding like trying to reach out to Hank Green. And so she's like, stop reaching out to Hank Green. Like, I know what I'm talking about. And at one point he like was like Hank Green was tagged in and he was like, she knows what she's talking about, guys. And so she's very good at relaying information very concisely. And her tone and performance were fantastic. And so I was like, hey, I have a book about women's sports because you're really good at you're used to having to like fight off like people who like will always refer to like the men who are in the same industry as you. And she's like, absolutely. And she sounded great. Turns out it was actually like not her first audiobook. So that was interesting. Also, like I've been finding like voice coaches and whatnot on TikTok as well. What's kind of flattering is she keeps talking about like her, her origin story into audiobooks. And I'm like, it's me. It's me. It's me. But yeah, like I like finding people who like she specifically like was doing her PhD in linguistics in the terms of like she would shove a sonogram in someone's mouth as they were doing like childhood voices and just like see like the actual science. And so now she's my director. I send to a lot of authors, as well as like more complex titles where like you need someone who could do the voice. Her name's Colette Fian, and she's amazing. And honestly, if you ever need like a consult on like doing voices or whatnot, hit her up. Like, also great for, she's like a polyglot. She does like Mandarin. She does Cantonese and Mandarin, but also like she has contacts where it was a specific region in the north that was like very regional words that she was able to hit up. And so she has a network of people that she can hit up. Like she did this audiobook for me that was it took place initially in Mexico, but it was the two indigenous dialects in the north of Mexico and then moved to Japan. Yeah. And so
a very
like
specialized knowledge set
yes,
to know both of those.
And she knew both of them.
Nicely done, Colette.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Okay,
All right, sorry.
so
I know we're over.
Well, is this officially what you're excited about? Is the people in the industry,
Yeah,
or did you?
that's the people.
That's the official answer. Yeah,
it's the people. Yeah, I am this industry. I mean, like it's just audiobooks. It's for me. It's the fact that it's like a bread and butter industry. Like people can do their craft. This is the gig, and then this gig pays the rent, so they could do the other fun gigs that they really like their passions. So that makes me happy.
That is definitely something to be excited about.
Yeah.
Sarah, what about you? What are you excited about?
I'm actually changing my, answer I'd prepared to also be the people, but with a little bit different lens, which is, Jen, in this interview, you gave so many different specific examples of like creative moments that, and I could hear like the passion and the excitement and the like creative juice that brought those moments to life. And I got excited thinking about the people in this industry who are truly dedicated to the art, because there are people in the industry, and no disrespect whatsoever, this is a totally valid way to be, that are just like, hey, like I show up, I do a competent job, I get it done as soon as efficiently as possible. It is a competent production. And then there are people in the industry that are like, I am passionate and I am playing, and this is such an amazing art form. And so being here with you today, I got excited about like
Aw.
those of us in the industry that are so passionate about this art and are continuing to explore.
I love that. I find myself in the middle.
Yeah.
Because honestly, this job, like I work New York hours, I clock in at 6, I'm out at 2. Fantastic. And it's just a job. And then I can be on a lovely chat with you guys and get excited about stuff.
Yeah,
And
because when it's your daily life, like for practical reasons, you can't be like deeply in artistically engaged in all moments at all times, like especially at the speed we have to work.
Yeah, and it's like what I was saying with nonfiction, it's like it's a marathon. You got to pick and choose if you are gonna insert any kind of like creative. Like sometimes sometimes you just got to get it done. It's one and done. Get it. You have 6 other books lined up. Would be nice. 6 other books lined up, and you just got to get this done so you can move on to the next. You got to be. I totally get that, and as a producer, that's kind of what we expect. But taste-wise, it's nice to put a little zhuzh once in a while.
It kind of reminds me, this is kind of a weird analogy, and I'm not a parent, so I don't even know why this analogy popped to mind, but it kind of reminded me of being a parent, right? Like there's this beautiful relationship that is alive in every moment, but like sometimes you got to get your kid dressed out the door. Like, and it's both.
I am a parent, can confirm.
Yeah, I was like, can you approve this analogy, Jennifer?
Yes. There are days that just you have to get the kid to school, and so
make sure that they eat something.
Right.
Yes, it is good. Jen, thank you so much for being here with us today. It has been a pleasure. It's been
fun. Thank you for having me over.
Thanks so much for listening to Crafting Audiobooks. We've been your hosts, Sarah Beth Goer
and Jennifer Jill Araya.
Wishing you happy audiobook listening and/or crafting.
Bye for now.